for joining us today. And I'll give it back to Erin, who is going to moderate.
Yes. Thank you. So Randy, would you, let's just start off by saying, can you explain to our viewers exactly what is your license and what that means? Like, what is it?
Sure. So we are called legal paraprofessionals in Arizona. Other states have varying titles, but what that means is through set parameters of experience or education, and upon passing some exams and character and fitness and fingerprinting, if approved by the Board of Non-Lawyer Legal Service Providers, I have a license to represent individuals limited to family law, with a few exceptions, but I don't have to be supervised by an attorney. I have my own clients. I appear in court. I give legal advice. So, with a few exceptions, such as appeals to a higher court or dividing businesses and commercial properties, I can do it all. And I'm really excited to have this opportunity. We're a growing network. We have about 77 in Arizona now. And so we're just bridging that gap in access to justice and helping individuals in all types of family law cases, from custody, divorce, modifications, grandparent rights, everything in between.
Well, that sounds exciting. So that's where we are now. Let's kind of go all the way back. And can you walk us through what got you interested in law and take us through your journey from being, a traditional paralegal to where you are today?
Sure. I started in family law in 2008, and I've worked exclusively in family law since. In about 2020, Arizona started at least announcing that they were considering this legal paraprofessional program, and I heard about it at a CLE. And so a coworker of mine just kind of kept our ears on it, and they started with the initial group in 2021, and I took my exams in September. They are pretty tough exams. I was lucky to be one of the few that passed on the first try. So in November of 2021, the Board of Non-Lawyer Legal Service Providers approved the first 10 LPs in our state. And then when I was admitted to the bar in January 2022, that's when I started working as an LP. So at the firm I work at, I have my own clients where I handle their cases pretty much start to finish. I've settled all of them, so I haven't had to go to any trials yet. And then I also work as the backup, because we always have a lead and a backup attorney on every case. And so now I'm kind of the backup LP on cases for the partners in the firm, and I handle those pretty much start until trial, and then the attorney steps in. So really hands-on. And I was as a paralegal as well, but now I can give legal advice, and I can go to status conferences and scheduling conferences and mediation, and go to court and kind of be second chair. And so I'm more hands-on, but it's really exciting. And the more I do it, the more comfortable I feel. And yeah.
So what was your education background?
I first obtained my associate's degree in paralegal studies from Everest College, which was ABA approved program. From there, I obtained my bachelor's degree from Arizona State University. And so with that education background, I could qualify to be a legal paraprofessional because I had the paralegal degree. The other option to qualify as a legal paraprofessional is having 7 out of the last 10 years of experience in the field in which you're applying. So there's family law, criminal, civil, administration, and now juvenile. That's a newer one. And so if you've worked in that field 7 out of the last 10 years, you can qualify that way.
And so after you figure out if you're eligible, is there an application? What's the next step to say, okay, I have the education or I have the experience. How do I start to do this?
So first, an individual determines that they're qualified by reviewing that ACJA code that Heather mentioned, 7210. And the first step from there is actually passing the exam. So each applicant has to take a core exam, and then an exam in the field for which they're applying. Each exam is 3 hours long, 100 questions. The passing rate is 72. So you have to take those exams separately. I took them all in one day, a morning and an afternoon session, and then you wait to see if you passed. From there, if you pass, you get the application packet. You have to go get fingerprinted. You have to provide your official transcripts if you're going through the education route. If you're going through experience, you have to get letters from your supervising attorneys and your entire employment history. You apply, they do background check, they do character and fitness, and then you appear before the board. And
What is the board?
it is the Board of Non-Lawyer Legal Services Providers. So they oversee the legal paraprofessional program, the certified legal document preparers, and alternative business structures. So if the board approves your licensure, you get licensed, and then you have to be admitted into the state bar as an affiliate member before you can begin practicing. So as an affiliate member, you have to pay bar dues, which are pretty hefty. You also, in Arizona, we have continuing legal education requirements for attorneys, which is 15 hours per year. That also applies to LPs. We have to do the CLEs every year, bar dues. We are disciplined by the state bar, the same as an attorney. We are held to the same standards of professional conduct and ethics. We have to maintain trust accounts and disclose whether we have insurance. So there is a lot of regulation, and we are overseen. The last I heard, there had not been any kind of disciplinary actions against legal paraprofessionals. I hope that maintains true. But yeah, that's the process start to finish. And so for me, it was about 4 months from taking my exams to bar admittance.
And what did you think was your biggest challenge in that process?
Honestly, the biggest challenge was just nerves. So I I'm confident that I had the knowledge, but studying was very overwhelming. I'm studying from the Arizona and national constitution to local rules of procedure and everything in between when it comes to family law. And the core exam had legal terminology and trust accounting and the rules of evidence and things that I really didn't know as a paralegal. So there was a lot that I had to study to take the exams to pass. And then the nerves of walking into the courtroom for the first time. As a paralegal, I just sat in the back, took notes. As a licensed paraprofessional, I'm making my appearance to the judge and saying, Randi Partain, legal paraprofessional, representing petitioner, and that's seated next to me. And so it was nerve-wracking, but very exciting. My voice probably cracked during my first court appearance, but it gets easier and easier, as I'm sure it does for attorneys. And so that was my experience, and it's been very exciting.
Do you by chance have a copy of your limited license that you would like to show our members?
I do. I had it framed and I hang it on my wall in my office. And so this is what it looks like. It is, pursuant to the rules of the Supreme Court, has my date of admittance by the board, has my bar number, and, says that I am licensed to deliver legal services in family law. So
And do you have a bar card?
I do. So this little bar card gets me, through security a little faster. I don't have to take my shoes or my belt off. But that's just exciting to have there in my wallet.
And do you know, if you know, how many licensed paraprofessional Arizona has now?
The last time the roster was updated, there were 77 active and 3 or 4 that are inactive.
And how often is the exam offered? Like
That
is it once a year or multiple times, if you know?
multiple times per year. Mhm.
All right. So you've talked a lot about, I want to just move into like what you can do. So, kind of go a little bit deeper into now you did say that you have certain areas in which LPs can work and you are family law, right? So does that mean you can't practice any civil or administrative law? It's exclusive to just family?
Correct. I am limited to the field that I am licensed in. Now, an LP can be licensed in more than one field. We do have a few that are criminal and family law, and I think we might have civil and family law. For those LPs, they still have to separately meet the qualifications for both fields of practice. So I don't have the qualifications for any other field right now. If they open up for adoptions, that might be something I'm interested in, but I'm limited to family law. As I mentioned earlier, there are a few things I cannot do. I cannot do appeals. If my divorce case has if the parties, either one has a formal business entity or they own a commercial property, in order to represent them, I would need to bring co-counsel in to handle those matters. I'm prohibited from doing that. I'm also prohibited from doing formal orders that divide retirement assets. We call those quadros here. Um, so, but for those limitations, I can do anything in family law. If an LP has criminal licensure, they can represent for initial appearances, so long as jail time is not a possibility, whether by what the charges are or an agreement with the prosecutor. For civil, they can do municipal and justice court actions. And in administrative law, it's anything before an administrative entity in which an attorney could appear, but for disciplinary actions.
So with a general family law case, I guess I'm a former family law attorney. So you can basically, as long as the litigant doesn't own commercial property or a business, you can do alimony, you can do child support, custody, and you can represent a client at all levels. And do you
Yes,
have to have an attorney with you?
I can represent the client at all levels, start to finish, including appearances in court, mediation, negotiating rights, signing and filing pleadings. I can do everything that's post decree, including all issues, like you said, child custody, spousal maintenance, child support. If my client is the grandparents, grandparent visitation or grandparent rights, and then post-decree modifications or enforcements. I do not have to be supervised by an attorney. I could be a solo practitioner out on my own, and there are actually quite a few LPs that have their own law firms. I chose to stay where I am at and continue learning and being mentored by the attorneys that I work with because they're amazing and they're certified family law specialists, and the experience and what I gained from them is just invaluable. I could also be a partner in a law firm through alternative business structures. So there really are a lot of employment opportunities for legal paraprofessionals here. And also legal paraprofessionals working with attorneys can bring in more clientele for the attorneys, maybe individuals that, need a lower cost option that that firm wouldn't be able to cater to. Well, now if they have an LP working with them, we can help those clients.
Well, that brings me to my next question. So I understand you're working for a private firm. So what is your billable rate compared to an attorney or a traditional non-LP?
Mhm. So I am in Maricopa County, which is the biggest county in Arizona. And so attorney rates here are higher than lesser populated areas. My attorneys here bill between, I think, 375 and 500 an hour. That's the going rate. They're certified family law specialists with over 30 years of experience. So that's kind of typical here. The paralegal rate in our firm is 185. And as a legal paraprofessional, I bill at 250, which is kind of what a starting attorney rate is here. And so it's comparable to a newer attorney rate.
Okay, and you mentioned this alternative business structure. Can you tell us more what that is?
I don't know quite a lot about that, but it is the avenue for law firms to have non-lawyer partners or with membership interests in the firm. And so that is also overseen by the Board of Non-Lawyer Legal Service Providers. They have to apply. I don't know what the process for that is, but that is how an LP can be, a partner in a firm, have an ownership interest.
Um, and you were saying that can you hang out your own shingle?
I could. Yeah.
Now, what about insurance or malpractice insurance?
So it is not required in Arizona, but it is encouraged. And so I am covered under the umbrella of my firm. And in Arizona, attorneys and LPs just have to disclose to the public whether they have the insurance coverage. And so that is contained in my bar profile.
Now, we all talk about having insurance because nobody ever wants to get the letter from, the grievance board. What kind of disciplinary oversight is there with LPs in Arizona?
So the discipline process is overseen by the state bar. So they receive complaints, they investigate, and then they prosecute or not. And so that's the same process for LPs as there are for attorneys. Luckily, I've not gotten an email yet, knock on wood, where I'm having to explain something, give a statement, but yeah, we are regulated and they keep an eye on us just like attorneys to make sure we are, doing what we're supposed to and helping our clients, serving them and doing it in the ethical way that we are supposed to.
And to your knowledge, has there been any disciplinary on an LP?
Not that I'm aware of, nothing at least that's gone more than an initial complaint, which I'm not aware if there have been any initial complaints either, but.
And how has the community the public responded to this?
The response has been low just because not a lot of people have heard of us. Even now, years into the program, there are still attorneys that don't know we exist. But the public that have been served by LPs, the overwhelming response is positive. There was a task force that did a survey last year of judges, attorneys, LPs, and the public. And I believe the satisfaction response by the public was 100%. And 99 point something of them said that they would refer friends and families to a legal paraprofessional.
I know you work in a private firm. Do you know, is that where the majority of LPs work, or do you see a lot of LPs working in legal service providers or other, legal entities?
In the network of LPs that I know, mostly that are on the board with me, there are about 15 of us on the board. And then I just have some acquaintances that I've made over the years. The majority are within firms. I would say I know of probably 10 LPs that have their own practice. And that's something I might consider far in the future. But for now, like I said, I'm in a state where I am.
So, we talked a little bit about how the public responded. This is being put on by the Maryland Bar Association, and Maryland is considering, and we are exploring the possibility of bringing some kind of regulatory form to Maryland in the future. What was the response of the bar members of Arizona to this? How did the bar respond when this was being, promulgated?
Mixed, I think, as you can imagine. Some attorneys were just a little worried that, we would reduce their pool of potential clients. Were opposed to non-lawyers representing individuals in court proceedings. Some felt that it was a shortcut, but others are very supportive. And I think the support grows the longer the program has been out and the more attorneys have experience in dealing with legal paraprofessionals or end up employing legal paraprofessionals. So the temperature is warming, but slowly, and I understand why. I don't hold myself out as an attorney, and when we can't, we're prohibited from that. We can't call ourselves counsel or attorney or, you know, legal practitioner. But yeah, the judges have been pretty supportive, I would say more so than the bar. And their response to that survey, um, most responses were, you know, as far as the LPs that have appeared before them, some are better than others, just like attorneys. And, you know, the judges support that we have to have continuing legal education requirements so that we are staying up to date on, you know, case law updates and changes in rules and statutes and things like that. So it's warming, and that makes me hopeful.
Um, because you were part of one of the original groups, what advice can you give Maryland as we continue to explore this? Like what is, you know, if you had perfect hindsight that you could go back and say, oh, if I could do it differently, if Arizona could do it differently, this is how I would do it, with kind of getting the bar to embrace this.
I would say more exposure about the program, more education as to what we can, what you know, the potential of the program is. There are still judges and attorneys that don't know you know, what we're able to do and then the restrictions. So really just getting the word out more. Um, as far as the administrative part of it, I I don't know that I would change anything. A slow rollout probably is, you know, the better way to go, because that's what Arizona did. They did a lot, the task force did a lot of research into it, getting public and bar and judge input on the possibility of the program first. Um, yeah, that's really all I could say to that.
And what misconceptions do you think attorneys and judges and even the public still have about the program?
Well, we are still just referred to and thought of as paralegals. Um, the public and many, you know, attorneys and judges still don't know that we can represent litigants and that we are to be treated as an attorney. You know, and as far as if I'm representing my client, the opposing counsel should not be contacting them directly. But one of my colleagues has had that happen. And the attorney cited the rules of professional conduct that say, you know, counsel cannot communicate with a litigant if they're represented by an attorney. And they said, well, it says attorney, it doesn't say legal paraprofessional. But there was an administrative order that amended the rules to say that LP should be read in place of an attorney anywhere it appears in there. But yeah, I still get called paralegal by my clients no matter how many times I correct them. So I think it's because professional,
Right.
people hear para and they just like, okay, paralegal. I'm fine. Whatever they call me doesn't change what I'm able to do for my clients. But that's the biggest misconception is what our role is, what we can do, and yeah.
So I know that you talked about your one opposing counsel, but in general, how have opposing counsels treated you?
A little frosty. But I don't know. These are mostly ones I haven't dealt with before, even as a paralegal. So I don't know if that's just their regular demeanor. I mean, some are friendlier than others. Some are easier to work with than others. So, you know, there's one particular one in one of my cases I have right now that I feel like probably wouldn't treat an attorney the way I feel like she tries to pull things over on me. Um, but luckily for my client, I know my stuff. So, you know, not letting her bully me. But yeah, I think it'll get better.
I think that's true with family law in any state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so what have motivated you to be one of the first in Arizona to do this?
Well, I had been a paralegal for quite a long time. And, maybe about 14 years by the time the paraprofessional option was made available. And so, as much as I loved my job, I was, in my mid 30s thinking, wow, I've really gotten as far as I can go. How can I move forward in my career now? I didn't want to go to law school and I didn't want to be an attorney, starting that out middle-aged and it just seemed like a lot. It's a lot of pressure, even just being a legal paraprofessional. So when this program became an option, I jumped at it because this was an opportunity to do more and be more. And so that, yeah, I hopped right on it and I'm proud to be one of the first 10. I'm number 7, so my family calls me 007. And yeah,
That's
yeah. So it's just the opportunity to do more with my knowledge and my experience because I felt like I could do more. And so it's exciting and I'm glad to see that the number of licensed LPs has increased year to year. And we have almost 80 now that are active and we're a growing community. And the more that we're out there, I think the more we'll gain respect from other members of the bar and the bench and, get the word out there to potential clients that need help and maybe can't afford an attorney because divorces are expensive. Expensive.
Have you had an LP as an opposing on the opposing side yet?
I have, yeah. And
How did that differ between having an attorney on the other side?
I think so she was a paralegal that I knew in my very first job. So I had known her for almost 15 years. And so we were very cordial because we're kind of neighbors and we've kept in touch over the years. Um, the other LP in my office has had opposing legal paraprofessionals. And I think just because we have all kind of been through similar experiences in dealing with opposing counsels on the other side that don't know who we are and maybe don't give us quite the level of respect that, maybe we should have, that it is very easy to work with a legal paraprofessional on the other side because I'm always advocating for my client, but I feel like most of the time settling is the best option if you can find a neutral ground because otherwise you're giving your life into the hands of a stranger, a judge that doesn't know you or your family. And so that's why I said most of my cases have settled so far.
When you get either with a new client or you get a new opposing counsel, what kind of introductions or explanations do you give the client or the attorney as to what your role? I mean, I think that would be part of educating the public and the bar. So do
Yeah.
you have a standard, spiel that you do?
Pretty much the first thing in every consultation when I sit down or log in, if it's over Zoom, is I explain to them, I'm not an attorney. I'm a legal paraprofessional and this is what that means. And this is what I can do. And these are my limitations. So I make sure, do you have a business? Do you own commercial property? Um, and then in my email signature, and all LPs have in our email signature, I am not a licensed attorney. I am, limited into my scope of practice. And there's a little link to that code, the judicial code, which, sets forth what we can and cannot do. So I always, disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. And yeah, but from the outset, I just try to clear up who I am, what I can do, but I still get called a paralegal all the time or an attorney. My client will be like, talk to my attorney. And then I have to, I'm not an attorney, just reminder, we can't hold ourselves out and we shouldn't as attorneys. So we just always have to clear that up.
Now, were you with this firm when you became licensed, or did you come to this firm already licensed?
I was with this firm and my boss, Mr. Ellsworth, was very supportive. He paid for me and my coworker to take the exams. He pays for our bar dues. He pays for our continuing legal education. He pays for our insurance, pays for our, rule books every year. And is so supportive. He sings our praises. If he meets with someone and maybe they, are a single mom, he'll offer them for us to represent. I mean, he will give us cases out of his, potential clients. So it's been wonderful. But I do know a lot of LPs that have moved firms, and been hired on at a different firm as an LP. It is harder to find jobs for legal paraprofessionals, at least like on Indeed or the LinkedIn job boards, because they're not being advertised. So I do believe most of the postings that legal paraprofessionals respond to are for new associate attorney kind of positions, and that's kind of the role that those they're filling. Yeah.
And did it have an impact when you became licensed? Did it have an impact on salary? Did that come with, a greater salary or benefits?
It it did come with an increased salary. Uh, Benefits are the same, but yeah, because my hourly rate went up and my ability of what I can do in the practice, and I can bring in my own clients. So yes, salary increased, and I think that's what you asked. Yeah.
And do they market? Does the firm market you or the LP role? Is that a part of their marketing of the firm that, hey, we have this. If you don't want to pay $500 an hour, which I'll say Montgomery County, that's probably on the low end over here in Maryland, but do they market off of this role?
Yes, yep. They market all the services our firm provides. We even do like document preparation only, which without representation. So they market LP options. When the receptionist answers phone calls to schedule consultations, if they weren't referred to a specific attorney, she lets them know the option for LP. And, do you want to schedule with them, or would you like to schedule with an attorney? So right from the beginning of initial contact, they're made aware of the LP option. We're on the website. We're starting to do blogs and things like that as well to get more exposure to that.
I'm curious, how long, if I'll say if how long did the process take from a task force to actually being able to offer an exam to the first, class of LPs? You know how long it took Arizona?
The task force started in 2018, and first exam was offered, and I don't know the month, and first exam was offered July of 2021.
So about 3 years.
Mhm.
Exam offered through your bar examiners?
It's through the Board of Non-Lawyer Legal Service Providers. So they
And,
create the exam, administer it, you know, grade it, and however that works.
and what do you think is your biggest challenge in your role?
I would say it's a personal challenge, is just, building confidence, and that just comes with more experience. My coworker LP just had an evidentiary hearing yesterday, and the attorney on the other side was objecting left and right, and she's having to lay foundation for everything. And so, we didn't go to law school, so rules of evidence and things like that is really something we have to study and practice, and like preserving the record for appeal. And so that's the biggest challenge, is just ensuring that we know what we need to do and then act on it in court.
Right. I pretty much have gone through most of my questions. If you're okay, I would like to open it up to our attendees to see if anybody has questions for you, anything I didn't cover. So does anyone have any questions for Randi? Don't be shy.
I don't bite.
Nobody has a single question. Michelle, I'm sure you have questions.
Erin, do you know how many states allow this limited licensing right now? Or Randy, do you know how many states are actually participating in this at this point?
Currently, there are 8 states. Texas was the most recent, but there have been challenges with Texas, so I might say 7.5. I do know that DC is considering this, and also is Virginia. So DC, I think, is a little ahead of us in our process, where Virginia is a little bit behind us. Maryland has constituted what we call the Task Force for Innovation in Tiered Legal Services, and we are exploring limited licensing, community justice workers, and expanding legal technology. So the task force just started in July. We are in an exploratory phase at this moment.
I mean, yeah, I would ask a question, just Randy, you know, the perception of the bar over the years. I know you say it has kind of warmed slightly, but are you going to networking events? Are you going to, I assume you're going to CLEs and things of that nature where you're interacting with attorneys and the bar in general. So I don't know if you can kind of speak to how you networked, how you continue to kind of make those inroads. Is it grassroots? Is it putting yourself out there? Are you able to teach CLEs? Are you able to just participate at how that process works?
Most of my networking are social events, and speed networking with judges and things like that that are put on by the county bar and the state bar, attending in-person CLEs. There's lunch breaks that, everyone mingles. Um, we can speak at CLEs. There's actually one, I think, on Friday that an LP and an attorney are doing together. And so that's really how we get ourselves out there, is just networking events. And then the more cases we have with other attorneys, the more we work with them, we build those relationships. Go to lunch a couple times a year with other LPs or, attorneys that are in the same building as my firm. My favorite is the speed networking with the judges, getting to just kind of get to know them a little more personal and their likes and dislikes during proceedings. And the more and more I appear before the same ones, then they remember who I am. And so that's how, I meet other attorneys and judges.
And we have a couple questions in the chat, but I also see that Ida has her hand raised.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. My camera just went off for no reason. But anyway, so Randy, really, really appreciate your time today. I'm an adjunct instructor in a paralegal studies program in Maryland. And I think this is really exciting what you're describing. And, it is something that I hope will be available to the students at some point. So I once worked at a law firm with a doctor who had become a paralegal, and he just felt like that suited him better. And so I'm wondering, do you know of any former attorneys who have switched their career track and decided to become an LPP?
I do not know of any attorneys, but I do know of two law school graduates that decided to be legal paraprofessionals as opposed to getting admitted, to the bar as an attorney and practicing as an attorney.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And was that after they had taken the bar exam but didn't finish going through the process? Because it sounds like there's a pretty extensive exam that you had to take as well. I wondered if a bar exam would substitute in place of that.
I don't know that answer to that question.
Okay.
I do know for the education, to qualify through education, you can have your JD. I know when they're doing, the qualifications, if you've been disbarred in any jurisdiction, you cannot be a legal paraprofessional. You could be a paralegal, but you could not be a legal paraprofessional.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate it.
Randy, we have a question in the chat. How many clients do you have on average at a time?
I have of my own probably 5 to 10 at a time. And then, like I said, I'm still working on cases with attorneys, so I stay busy. The other legal paraprofessional here, she has a huge network. She puts on rodeos and does other charity events. So she has a lot more clients than I do because she gets a lot of referrals, but I am just kind of the tortoise, not the hare. I just kind of want to slowly, work up to having a higher caseload of my own.
And are you exclusively an LP or do you still perform the traditional paralegal role on other cases?
I do still do some paralegal duties. I mean, as a paralegal, I was very hands-on. I was dry. I pretty much drove the bus, to use that term, because I've been doing it so long. So I was, deciding, oh, we need to file this motion, drafting it, and then giving it to the attorney and said, I think we should do this. I'm drafting all the pretrial statements and the letters and the discovery and disclosure and being the one that talks to the client. Obviously, I couldn't give legal advice, so I always had to say, I can't give legal advice. Let me check with the attorney and get back to you on that, even though I felt like most of the time I knew what to say. So I do still do that on, as needed, but we do have paralegal and legal assistant here that I'm passing more of those things on to, like the filing and the, schedule this phone call with the client for me and things like that. But yeah, I do everything I can.
There's a couple questions about dealing with complexity, you getting to a complex issue in a case. Have you ever had a situation where maybe at the outset they didn't say they owned commercial property or owned a business, but at some point in the case it became too complex or it hit that ceiling and you had to refer it out? Have you had those kinds of situations?
I have not, but I know other legal paraprofessionals have. I think part of the survey that was done last year, of the 30 or 40 something LPs surveyed, a little more, I think, than a quarter or a third said that they referred potentials to attorneys because they, for whatever reason, knew they wouldn't be able to take that case or handle it. For me, because I work in a firm with 3 attorneys, if I have a question, I have a backup attorney assigned to all of my cases. So I just go to him and I say, this issue's popped up. I haven't really dealt with it much. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And I bounce things off of him. I haven't had to pass one of my cases off yet because something's, business or property has come up. I did have to, like I said, just get more advice from that attorney that helps me on my cases.
And you mentioned that one area is administrative law. Does that include corporate or in-house paralegals?
Um,
Can they be, licensed in administrative and work in corporate or in-house counsel office?
I did write it down. So administrative LPs and this is straight from the code, may provide services before any administrative agency that does not preclude practice by LPs. So the agency could decide that they will not let LPs appear before them. But the LPs are not authorized in appeals of an administrative agency's decision to a higher court or to represent a lawyer or LP in disciplinary proceedings. So those are the restrictions for administrative law. I believe for family, I think there is one LP that is working in some sector of the government. I don't know if it's for, DCS or the Attorney General's office. I'm not sure, but like I said earlier, there's a lot of options for LPs.
And how important do you think is marketing for you to build your client base?
Oh, that will be very important if I ever decide to go out on my own. Advertising, word of mouth, just it's important for any LP, just like an attorney. You got to get your name out there and try to get referrals, and it'll be important when the time comes for me.
Okay. So oh, Heather has a question. Go ahead, Heather.
Yes, sorry. Hey, thank you. I just wanted to know, I heard you, Aaron, ask a few questions about marketing, and you mentioned another LP who does a lot of really cool events to get marketing, to get more clients. Is this something that you can do on your own to bring in more clients to the firm that you're with?
I can. She was already doing those events and type things. I just time, limited time. I'm very busy here, and I really value my family time, and so but I probably will in the future, like I said, as I need more exposure and having my name out there. But right now I'm just, my daughter's just got her permit, so I'm just, my free time is with my family right now.
That's fair
And
enough.
is it something that along the same, I guess, vein of building your own book of business in a way?
Yeah,
If
I
you
would.
wanted to use it in that way? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
absolutely.
And if you have any advice for Maryland as we continue to explore this, what advice would you want to give us?
As far as the task force putting it together or the
Yes.
paralegals?
Both.
Okay. I probably don't have much advice for the task force because I wasn't involved in that process, and I don't know how Arizona did it and whether any improvements could be made, other than making it more well-known. I think there are still paralegals out there that probably don't know that this is an option for them. So hopefully that grows. But as far as the paralegals themselves, I would just say challenge yourself. There's no harm in taking, studying for the exams and taking them and seeing whether you can do it. You could fail and take the test again. Just try, study, 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 but there's no harm in trying. So that would be my advice.
Well, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I'll do one more call for questions before we finish up. Oh, did you have a study program for your exams? I know you were the first class, so you might want to talk about what was then and what is now.
So we did not have any study materials other than a list of this is what you need to know, which was very broad. Like I said, it went from the Constitution to local rules, and but there is a study packet now. I was just kind of, when I was preparing for this, looking up, and I think it's about 300 pages. So I think there are a lot more resources now for paralegals that are studying to take the exams, because they are in depth, like I mentioned. Especially the core is a lot of information that I did not know, and I had to really study for. So I think having materials available for paralegals to study is really important. So that is actually one thing I would have changed with Arizona, is having those available from the beginning.
Yeah, I could see that. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. So I just would like to say thank you so much on behalf of the Maryland State Bar Association and also the task force. This was extremely educational for us to learn what you're doing, to learn about the possibilities that this program offers and how we can elevate the profession. I mean, I think that it's so necessary and so needed. And I'm really excited that at least from Maryland, I can be a part of exploring that possibility. So I wanted to say thank you.
Yes, thank
Absolutely.
you.
You're welcome, and good luck. And I hope that is in the future for Maryland as well as other states.
And I'll just say to anybody who's on here, if you have any questions or, you want any further information about this possibility, you can always reach out to me or to Michelle or to Heather. So hope you guys all have a great day.
Thank you.